welcome to the Emo Kids Anonymous podcast. I'm Rob.
And I'm Amanda.
And we're your hosts. And we're going to be walking you through different subjects and episodes and the like. What we're going to be talking about, well, I guess we're going to be defending pop punk when it doesn't deserve to be defended sometimes. We're going to be diving into millennial culture and stuff involving that and just the things that we are generally interested in, which is generally coming from that world of pop punk, pop punk, mall emo, that stuff.
All
is that
the
right?
emo. Yeah, everything emo all the time. If you're looking behind me, you can already tell where my loyalties lie.
Yeah, if you're familiar with Amanda, you probably are. Yeah, you are deep in the FOB. Is it FOB? How do I say it? I'm like so old. Is it FOB Twitter? Or is it
Twitter,
just like
FOB Twitter? Like we say FOB Twitter. So we're called phobies, but no one likes that. Fobbies? I don't know. We're just Fall Out Boy fans. We're young bloods. We're car crash hearts. We're overcast kids. You name it. That's phrases. What we're called. That's Pete Wentz, man. I mean, and we're going to talk about that and much more because
we're going to talk about that. Yeah, there will definitely be some Fall Out Boy coverage in here. So I guess to get started then, I guess to give people a little backstory quick, I posted on the internet when we thought TikTok was going to go away, and I thought like my gravy train of making a doofus of myself in front of people and having people watch it was going to end. I was like, I got to make like a podcast. I need something long form. And you were the first person that reached out, and you were also the first person that I was like, sick. Yeah, that makes the most sense. So, awesome. I don't know. I guess we should, what drew us together here? How did you end up in this world of Fall Out Boy? How did you end up one of us? How did you end up in this meeting hall in this room with Emo Kid Anonymous?
Right. Well, I got to tell you, I was a really nerdy honors kid back in high school, and keep in mind, so I'm 39. I don't like to say my age, but let's be real.
Age reveals early. I just I interviewed a guy last week. I interviewed William Ramsey, author of this book.
Oh, yep, I got back.
He wouldn't tell me his age, and I was like, I kind of respect that. He's like, we're not going to do an age reveal. I do respect that. I'm like, I didn't know that was an option.
I know. I was like, I'm going to reveal here because when I start talking about things, it's like a different perspective. Because me, it's different.
It was hard to gauge things. I was like, I don't know how old you were when these things happened, so I don't know what to, but it's it's very clear. So we know timelines, everybody. These are the ages.
Yes.
She's 39.
There we go.
I'm a 35-year-old. And anyway, so you're an honors student. You're a nerd.
Yeah,
you're not in Kentucky. Where are you?
No, I'm originally from Pennsylvania.
What part of Pennsylvania?
The Harrisburg area. Which there's like a new band that came out last year, If Not For Me. It's more hardcore than it is emo, but I love their music, and they're actually playing it Louder Than Life this year, which is very exciting. This is a tangent that we don't need to be on, but anyway, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, the central PA, middle of nowhere. I mean, close to Hershey, but yeah, for me, if it wasn't on TRL, I wasn't listening to it because that's my friends. And to this day, it's the same thing. None of my friends are into emo. None of my friends are into pop punk. I had to discover it all on my own, right? And so my first foray into it would have been like Blink-182, Green Day, everything on TRL, Yellow Card. Actually, Yellow Card before Fall Out Boy would have been like I love
Yellow Card had a real moment, a year before. It's like there was kind of
yes.
We'll get into it, but there was before Fall Out Boy, maybe My Chem or the Markers, where it's once Fall Out Boy took over, it was just everything had to sound like Fall Out.
100%, yeah. So it was that Sum 41. If it was on the Splashdown video game soundtrack, if it was on the Spider-Man 2 soundtrack, Vindicated was everything to me.
That was a big moment for the culture. Was the Spider-Man 2 soundtrack?
I love that.
It's weird because it's you wanted to be kind of cool about it. I want to be that's not really what most music sounds like. That's kind of like the Sellout song, but at the same point, you're kind of so let me slip away. I'm still a heater.
Yeah, you're still here. And man, that Yellow Card song in there, Gifts and Curses, you can't get it on streaming anywhere, but they actually played it in their VIP this summer. I did their VIP on their, they were the openers for Third Eye Blind. So they did a little VIP acoustic set. And when they started playing that song, I flipped out and I was so embarrassed, but I don't like you can't unless you have the CD or you bought it off of iTunes a long time ago and you have Apple Music, you can't listen to that song anymore on streaming right now. Anyways, but that was kind of my like entry point into the culture, into everything. And then my freshman year of college, a guy friend of mine told me to listen to Fall Out Boy, and then my life changed. Like it just
Freshman year of college. That is so interesting to me.
2004,
So
2005. Yeah.
So I would have discovered Fall Out Boy like maybe a few months before that. I'm like, we are children of Carson Daly here.
Yes, we really are.
We are children of Carson Daly. Like literally like my life, like I cut it down to like, I'm not kidding. Like maybe the most transformative moment of my life is like, I don't know. I don't remember what the first video was. Like I could tell you like the first like 10 or 15. I could tell you almost every song that was on the TRL charts when I first watched it. It was like spring 99. So it's Livin' La Vida Loca. It's Jordan Knight, Give It to You. It's Robbie Williams, Millennium. It's NSYNC, Drive Myself Crazy. I think No Scrubs is still on there. Maybe
Probably,
Why Don't You Get a Job by The Offspring. Hardest Thing by 98 Degrees. And then there's a video with these three dudes just running naked. And it's like the coolest thing I'd ever seen, which says so much weird stuff about me, but it was just like hilarious. Like, and like I liked music before that. Like I lived in Oregon for a bit before this. Like I lived in Palm Desert when I discovered MTV, but like I liked like Kiss and like different things people showed me, but I didn't know anything about like popular music. And then I see this and it's like that became like my whole world was TRL. Like I got the Columbia House. Remember, like you get 12 CDs for like $1 or whatever, and it was that, like, like all the boy bands and this and that. And it's like it was just all music to me. Like it's 99, so like I had Kid Rock and Limp Bizkit, but I also had like Britney Spears and and just it was all music. And it's like I knew there was different genres, but like I really just listened to whatever Carson Daly told me to listen to, you know?
Yes.
And then a few years later, it's my 12th birthday, and I get a gift card to the music store. Like the CD store, the warehouse music. And I, like any good, it's 2001. So like any good 12-year-old boy, I'd buy the Marshall Mathers LP, you know, because I'm pissed off, you know, I'm mad, you know, and I want to hear some, I want to hear some slurs.
You were the demographic for Eminem.
I was the demographic. Like I was
not, but
I was a 12-year-old suburban white boy. Like, and I liked, we mentioned Kid Rock. I will admit here in the first 10 minutes of this, my first email address was kidrob@kidrock.com. It's shameful. It's embarrassing.
I mean, it's a good play on words. Well done.
It's solid. It's pretty good for being 10, right? Okay, for being 10, like, come on.
For 10, that's solid,
That's solid, yeah. But I have a few dollars left over, and I guess I'd heard people maybe mention Blink-182 as pop punk, or are they punk or something, and I saw Punk-O-Rama CD, and I bought that, and I kind of liked it, and then, but there was another kid that was in school that liked that stuff as well, and he mentioned it, and I knew he liked Blink, and he liked the punk stuff, so I went and gave it a second listen. And next thing you know, I'm just like at basement shows and stuff like that. I'm cutting my jeans at the knees, so I have like cut off shorts so I can put patches on. Like I'm a punker. I got like Liberty Spikes. And then like kind of start shifting like ninth grade hits. I think like maybe it was like girls or something. Maybe I realized like the punk thing was a little too hard. I don't know. But I know it was probably Dashboard. My dad walks in on me watching Dashboard, and he probably is thinking, he's like, oh, this boy's gay. And he's like, do you want to play guitar? And like probably like really hopefully like please tell me that's what this is about, you know?
Yeah, this
and I'm
is
like,
all this is about.
I was like, I already know how to play guitar actually. Yeah, I know how to play one. And he's like, oh, okay, well I have a coworker that like works at the store, like we'll buy you a guitar. And there was this like homeless dude in the area in San Diego where he lived, like this transient young dude named Kyle. Yeah. And I went up to Kyle and I was like, yo, my dad said he was gonna buy me a guitar. I told him I already kind of knew how to play, and I told him you'd teach me. Will you teach me? I'll give you money. And he's like, yeah. And like so it was because of Chris Carrabba, and then I fall into like boxcars around then. I start hearing the word emo, and then in 2004, so like all leading up to here, I'm big on the compilation discs, and I find one that's punk versus emo, and it's like 20 songs of each, and Fall Out Boy is on there, but they spelled their name wrong. I think it's like Fallout is one word, like Fallout Boy. Oh, yeah.
Like the video game.
And I think Grand Theft Autumn is called on that. It's called Best Side of Town, maybe, or something like that, like Best Part of Town, or something. It's not called like Grand Theft Autumn or Where's Your Boy Tonight or anything like that. It's like Yeah,
We need to
yeah,
find a
like it's
copy of like a picture of this
it's
CD
so
now.
weird. Yeah, we need to put it up here. Yeah, like
Yeah.
no, it's super rare. And I guess that was the one song on there that grabbed me. Bayside was on there too. Bayside was like the other big band that got me. Like other than that, there was a lot of stuff that I like May and Rufio. But when I heard that sweet crooning man that I know you have so much weird obsessive love for,
Okay, we'll talk
Patrick
about
Stump.
that.
When I heard,
Yes.
yeah, when I heard that dude cut in with the like, "Where is your boy
Yeah.
tonight?" I hope he's. And I was just like, this is the coolest thing I've ever heard. I was hooked. I went and found them on Pure Volume, and then like 2 months later, like a month later, Sugar dropped, and it was like, I found this band first, and this is the best thing I've ever heard. Here we are at Fall Out Boy. We both found Fall Out Boy. I mean, obviously, the Fall Out Boy's kind of your gateway drug here. What leads you farther down this rabbit hole?
Well, I mean, honestly, I think it started out with Fall Out Boy, and then once you start getting into the scene and, you know, went to my first Warp Tour, got to experience all the other bands, that's when I started to explore outside of the genre. I'm like, okay, this is me. I had never before found music that I felt like was for me, right? I mean, growing up, my mom, you know, I was listening to all the classic rock, right? The Aerosmith, the Boston,
Yeah.
like that's what my mom grew us up on. And then of course, you know, hip hop and R&B, and then of course I was a massive NSYNC fan for a while. You know, I was a preteen girl in the early 2000s. Come on.
I was 9-year-old boy, and I loved
I like to
NSYNC
say I
too.
was
Don't worry.
different, but I am not different. But I think that just ingratiating myself like on MySpace and LiveJournal and just getting in there, that kind of started leading me down the path. And I started to see like the band, like some of the bands in concert, because I lived in Philadelphia. And I miss living in a city like that, because when you live in a city like that, there's a lot of smaller venues and a lot of
you get everything.
opportunities.
You get any show you'd want to see from any level band, especially
Exactly.
Philadelphia. You're gonna get. It's right there with LA, same thing, where you're getting all the shows like New York is. If they're going to New York, they're driving the couple hours to Philly. Like they're doing both.
Exactly. 100. And then like right across the river is New Jersey, right? So we can be in Camden. I mean, Camden's not the safest place in the world, but neither is Philly. But you have all these options. So I started to get to go to shows and start to experience what that was like. And that just kind of led me down. And of course, I will give Fall Out Boy the credit. Pete Wentz does a really good job of with his Decadence Records and bringing in all these different artists. That started leading me down the paths to all these different artists, and then you kind of like just spread out from there, right? So I think that is where I know. So that's pretty much how it just kind of evolved over the years, just starting to find more bands like, oh, they're adjacent to this. Oh, did you hear about this drama? And then of course when My Chemical Romance, you know, I dressed as Helena one year for Halloween, like
Of course you did,
2006.
yes.
Of course, because most
I'm
girls would
surprised
do
you
that.
only did one, yeah.
Yeah, well, yes, yeah. I dyed my hair like really, really dark. I was don't never do that again to your hair. But yeah, I mean, and then through that, you know, you find the Used because you're like, oh, what's the drama? And then Taking Back Sunday. Oh, my sister was obsessed with them. Oh, you know, we saw a lot of Taking Back Sunday shows back in the day. So of course that, you know, introduced me to brand new because I love drama. So if I could see the drama and follow the drama, and that all just kind of led me down that path, right? To the point where I'm at now. I mean, experience it. I will say that in the 2010s, you know, the post-hardcore stuff, it's funny because I didn't get into that stuff until a little bit later, but I think that's because of where I was in my life at the time, right? I was like,
are you saying like you're a big fan of like the 2010s post-hardcore, like you like it a lot?
Well, yeah, like Pierce the Veil and stuff. Yeah, I never like I didn't experience or get to know that stuff until a lot later, right? It wasn't like I wasn't like immediately listening to Pierce the Veil in 2012 when Cloud the Sky dropped, right? But it was later on, and then I was like, oh, I like this. Why haven't I heard this before? But yeah,
I was super like, because I mean, like, I liked all the same things you like, basically. Like, I came up on, like, pop and, like, hip-hop and whatever was on, like, on MTV. And then, like, I liked punk and, like, I liked, like, the sing-along part of punk and the message of punk. But then, like, emo came and, like, the pop punk, and it was just, like, more my speed. It's like bubblegum. Like, I want the more bubblegum bands. And as the genre got, like, more post-hardcore, I, like, got way less into it. Like, it just wasn't as much for me. Like, even like I played in bands in like San Diego when I graduated high school, like 2007, 8, 9, and it's like that's really when it's taken off. Like Pierce the Veil, they're San Diegans, and
Yes,
they're
they are.
in '07 they drop like their first album, and they're like the kings of San Diego, and every band just wants to sound like Pierce. You either sounded like Pierce the Veil or you were like early Stomp Clap kind of like it was like it was like super indie or you were that.
Yes.
And like I was trying to do like Third Eye Blind Weezer stuff, and it was like there's no middle ground here for pop punk and like pop rock
Mm-mm.
anymore. Like so I didn't like that. Like I drew away from like I was like in denial of my culture really for a
Yeah.
long time. And I think TikTok, weirdly enough, which is what brought us together, is
Yes,
what
it
brought
did.
me back to it, is just realizing like, oh, maybe I'm not the only one who's weird about this,
No,
you
yeah,
know?
100%. I mean, and well, if you even look, and I know this is way off topic of what we're going to talk about today, but if you look at even Pierce the Veil's trajectory, if you look at their what 20
Beautiful.
is it 2016 album Misadventures, and then even Jaws of Life, not even as different as they're not even the same as what they were in 2007. I
No,
mean,
I
Vic's
showed one
not
of my
screaming as much. He
no, they're
can't.
like they're like a really good rock band now. Like they're the best like hard rock band on the planet.
Yes.
And I
Yes.
really appreciate the early Pierce the Veil records. Like they're stupid good, and especially like as like a San Diego thing. Like the Latin
I
influences in
love
it.
it. Yeah.
I'm like this sounds like Barrio Logan. This sounds like well, I mean they actually went to the same high school I went to, which was by the beach, so they're beach kids. But
Dang.
it sounds like the Latin part of San Diego to me still. Like it
Yeah.
doesn't sound like Mission Bay High School. It sounds like it
That's
has that feel.
crazy.
But Jaws of Life, I'm like, this hits. Like this sounds like a rock record.
Oh yeah, you could tell he was
Anyways,
listening to a lot of Pearl Jam. But
what all this stuff we're saying kind of ties into what today's episode is. Should we get into that?
yes.
Do we explain that? Okay, so I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, why don't you explain what today's episode is about?
Yeah. So for our first episode, Rob and I really wanted to dive into third wave emo, which we've kind of been talking about a little bit in our introductions because that's where both of us grew up in terms of the emo culture is third wave emo. And we want to talk about how it is the last, in our opinion, the last great music movement that we have seen. And we may not see another movement quite like this ever again. And so we're going to dive into
Never
that
will.
in our episode. Never will. And we could talk a little bit about why that's probably the case. But yeah, so that's what we're going to talk about today. So, Rob, you ready to get into it?
I'm ready to get into it as long as everyone that is watching right now has already liked
Yes.
and prescribed and commented and done all that. We'll do our best to respond to comments. I will or you will. I'm obnoxious
Yeah,
with it, the
definitely.
internet.
I do love
As you
responding
guys
to
are,
comments.
yeah, if you are familiar with either of us, you see us on the internet. We are in your face a lot. So, thank you for watching. But yeah, let's get into this. Let's get into this because
Yeah.
I'm feel very aggressive about this.
Awesome. Yeah. So I think in order to understand what third wave emo is first, we kind of have to set the stage. So, Rob, tell us a little bit about
Let's
where
get
third
nerdy.
emo, like the origins. Yeah, let's start getting nerdy.
Let's get nerdy.
Where did third wave emo originate from? Let's talk about the origins of third wave emo.
So to understand third wave emo, we need to take it back to the first wave of emo. We need to go to the summer of 1985 in Washington, D.C., okay? So emo starts there, and Rites of Spring kind of gets the credit.
Mhm.
Rites of Spring is an emo band, Fugazi was not. That's kind of emo happens then, as they call it, and it sounds nothing like what we think of as emo today. It kind of, if you listen to it now, you would think it's just punk, but at the time, it was a lot different than what was like the punk rock at the time. Most punks will tell you that besides Bad Religion, most punk in the 80s kind of sucked. So like Fugazi was something different, Rites of Spring was something different. These are different things. In the 90s, emo is more like what people think of as like Midwest emo today, where it's like that like twinkly stuff, and it's kind of, a little more introspective, this and that. And then you kind of can say the crossover bands between second and third wave, which are really, the big influential ones here, would be a band from Arizona by the name of Jimmy Eat World.
Mhm.
And a band fronted by one guy named Chris Carrabba, the band Dashboard Confessional. So in the 90s, punk has a big boom with skate punk.
Oh yeah.
Every pop punk band, The Offspring, Green Day, Rancid, whoever, Bad Religion, all these bands are signing to major labels, and skate punk is the biggest thing going on. And
But
on
yeah.
the other side here, on this subgenre of punk, is like there's kind of these nerdier, more thoughtful dudes playing this more emotionally driven rock, like Jimmy Eat World, and it's a little different. And somehow or another, it kind of starts to catch on. And as this is happening, there's some interesting East Coast scenes going on involving derivatives of hardcore music, like in New Jersey and
Mm-hmm.
Long Island. Bands like
Yep.
Thursday, Taking Back Sunday, Brand New, those are some of the big ones, This is going on as well. And somehow, at some point here, I don't quite know when it is. I would say maybe it's the dashboard on MTV Unplugged, maybe.
Yeah, it's like what,
Maybe
2002, I think.
yeah, it's about then. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
recorded in September of 2001, but I didn't get my hands on it until 2003. Like it was
Yeah.
almost kind of a slow burn where it was just kind of consistently.
Back then, that makes sense.
Yeah, you're right. Like things didn't have like the same like it. They'd play it and it just
Yes.
they'd repeat it and then the CD sold so well but so at some point in here, this third wave emo is basically these bands that basically anyone outside of the norm or anyone that didn't hang out in message boards, third wave emo is what you consider emo. It's these, Hawthorne Heights, the Fall Out Boys, the Used, all these things generally fall under some umbrella of that.
Yes.
And we can say third wave emo is 2000 to 2009 or so, which is the heyday that we will be covering for the most part on this show.
You're right. When you think of third wave emo, and even if you listen to a lot of interviews by those bands at that time, I mean, you see, Fall Out Boy always talked about Sunny Day Real Estate, the Get Up Kids as inspiration. Save the
Yes.
Day. That's another one that was heavily influential for third wave emo. So you have all these bands, and they're coming up at a time when we still have this monoculture, I guess, if you will. Kind of, that's
Absolutely
what I would describe it.
Yeah, it's still
So,
full on monoculture
yeah.
in the 2000s. We all saw the same
Yeah.
commercials. We all saw the same everything.
Yes, we all saw the same music because we only had two music
Yeah.
channels, and three music channels. We all basically saw the same music, and streaming didn't exist, so it was hard to, unless you were downloading it illegally, finding all these different types of music was a little bit harder. Did we all do that? Yes. Did we ruin computers? Yes. I went
Oh,
through
yeah.
like 3
Oh,
computers in college.
Me and my
'cause of
brother were not
LimeWire.
allowed to touch our family computer because we just kept wrecking it, It didn't help that we were probably
Yes.
teenage boys, probably wrecking it in other ways as well, but mainly downloading music just immediately. I swear to God, music files were created by the computer industry as a way to take out the Dells and Compacts at the time.
To really show that Microsoft Windows sucks. That's what,
Right?
that's
Yeah,
what it
yeah,
was
right.
all
Yeah.
designed to do.
That's really how I ended up on Macs. It's just I hear these things can handle the download. I hear I
Right?
can pirate on these better.
Exactly. Man, maybe that's what Steve Jobs was doing the whole time. Yeah, but then you get all these bands, and really, when they start to gain traction on MTV, especially like MTV2, obviously, is where they start getting started. And then you start seeing them more in the popular culture, right? Some of the
Yeah.
songs start breaking through onto mainstream radio like they never had before. I mean, Jimmy Eat World had The Middle, right? The Middle was probably
The Middle
I
was
would consider.
massive.
Yeah, it was massive.
Probably
that
one
was
of
like
the
our
top-
big turning point.
Not even
Yeah.
opinion, just probably airplay, whatever, probably one of the top 10 rock songs of the 2000s, at least the early 2000s. The Middle
Yeah.
was inescapable. Everyone in the world has heard The Middle.
So you see these other bands once Fall Out Boy came out with Sugar, and then My Chemical Romance with Helena. Those two things right there just
Right?
started
Because
taking off.
so at some point, what's interesting too, that we both get into music in the late 90s, there's this really interesting where it's like a monoculture, but it's a melting pot finally, where it's
Yes.
okay, I'm buying the Eminem and the Kid Rock and the Limp Bizkit and the Blink and the
Yep.
Lauryn Hill and the Britney and the Christina and this and that and TLC, and it's everything was kind of just meshed in, and you would listen to everything. And then it kind of went from Blink would be on there, and then Sum 41, and then
Yes.
Good Charlotte, and then you'd some other stuff would kind of be on the peripheries, because The Used was big, and
Yeah.
I was in Canada at the time, so we had much music, and they wouldn't really show them there, but they had the punk show, and they would stuff like The Used, and it was bubbling up, and maybe TBS, but at some point,
Yeah.
it's definitely Fall Out Boy to me. Fall Out Boy hits. you could all, good
Yeah.
Charlotte's
I
there,
mean,
but like Fall Out Boy is the emo
yeah.
one where that hits and Sugar becomes like the like pop culture.
Yeah. All summer 2005. That is, and of course, that is also the last year they do Vans Warped Tour, right? 2005.
Gotta
That's
get that
because
money.
they,
Yeah.
yeah, and they were never gonna come back and do it, guys. I'm just saying that they were just
Get over it.
they were that wasn't gonna happen, guys. Sorry.
It's not happening. They're above the scene. That's a good thing.
Yes, it's a good thing. They have moved on. Um, but yeah, when I think about Take It Back Sunday, make damn sure. I mean that in 2006, that even had broken through right into the mainstream.
That went to number 2 on
Yeah.
the Billboard charts, I think. Like
Yeah,
that's how
that was
deep it
huge.
was. Where it's just like this was pop culture. Like Vindicated, the Spider-Man soundtrack. Like that's very big.
Yes.
My Chem. It wasn't just like the weird kids. It was the normie girls were in. Everyone was into it. Everyone liked some of it, and it just became like because the late '90s they had the new metal thing, and new metal wasn't cool, and then they had the reactionary thing. I think new metal was kind of revolutionary in a weird way in the sense that it tried to push things forward.
It did.
After that, you have like the indie rock New York kind of like sleazy, like the Strokes and stuff. Yeah, and it's kind of like that stuff wasn't. I like it now, but at the time it didn't. It was just like too reactionary. It was like it was too old school for me. I didn't get it. Like
I didn't at the time either. I tried. I bought the CDs. I bought the Vines. I was like, I'm going to be cool. I'm going to be one of these cool people because I was trying to figure out what my personality and identity was.
Of course.
Nope. I have one identity and it is emo. But yeah, I tried.
But yeah, so then I think something about the emo and especially the bigger bands at first, like something about it just appealed to younger people a lot more. Like it felt like it was targeted at a younger demographic. They were more interesting, the music had more dynamic stuff going on than the rock at the time, which was, I mean, like, yeah, you could either have Nickelback or the Strokes, it was like, what do you want here?
Yeah,
and
what a great dichotomy there.
Yeah. Nothing against Nickelback in case any of my industry associates are watching.
We love Nickelback.
Love Nickelback. Love Nickelback. I will sing Rockstar on the spot right here if I have to, if I'm pressed to it. Sorry, I have connections and business relations to maintain. But like same thing. Like I grew up in Nickelback country. Like that's literally. But at the time, like I can appreciate Nickelback now, like legitimately. But at the time, it was like this is all you could hear was like stuff that sounded like Nickelback or this, and then it was like this interesting, bubbly, bouncy pop punk music, and like. It kind of was like a continuation, if anything. It was as much of a continuation on the Y2K boy band pop music as anything to me.
Oh, yes. That is my favorite analogy right there.
Literally, it's the new. Yeah. They were the new boy bands in a way. Like Blink was seen as a boy band at first. Like they were a TRL band, and then like Good Charlotte
they made fun of it too.
Yeah, and they had fun with it, but like if you didn't know any better, like if you imagine you just watched all the small things, you didn't get all the references, you'd be like, oh, this is a boy band. Like they're just like a silly boy band too. Like you wouldn't have 100%. Realized. But
no, exactly.
There was something
when you look
about
at the music, yeah. Well, it's the words, right? I mean, as a woman who loved her love songs by her boy bands, at the same time, that's what these lyrics are that these bands are writing about, right? They're like, I mean, Hawthorne Heights, cut my wrist and black my eyes. Come on now. It's a heater.
It's a heater, especially when you're young and emotional. Yeah, yes, right?
Like I was very emotional about my love life. And that, yes, I felt that, right? And that's what we needed. We didn't have those kind of emotions in our lyrics at the time. So
there was like anger or there was like, let's go. It was like post 9/11 America where it's just like, we're having a good time. And we're kicking the Taliban's ass. Like, it's just like that. And then it's like, emo comes on. It's like, yeah, okay, like Linkin Park's there. But like, I don't really hate my dad. I'm more so just like, really like emotional about things. And then like, there's these bands that come along and it's like, they're kind of almost like boy bands too. They're interesting. They're intertwined. You start like being a nerd about it. Like getting like almost like comic, total like stan culture stuff about it. Where it's like, oh, this ties into this and that.
Yeah.
And it started grabbing people. And I think, especially when we had a monoculture, teen girls shifted the world. Like, teenage girls decided what was cool until about, I don't know, whenever One Direction fell off.
I don't know, because Taylor Swift is making a lot of money. So I
Taylor
don't
Swift's
know.
making a lot of money, but she's making a lot of money off millennial women that were once those
That's true.
15-year-old girls running the planet.
Yeah, well, we
And
just
those,
have all the money now.
now you can afford the tickets. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
it. Just that demo all has pretty good office jobs with benefits now. Like, but
Right,
she's
yeah.
still running things. But like, for the most part, okay,
Yeah.
like Chapel is big, Olivia is big, Sabrina is big. These artists are very big. The K-pop's big, but I can go ask 100 people on the street right now, and 50 of them could tell me they've never heard those songs. And that was not the
100%.
case until about some point in the 2010s or late
I think
2000s.
so. Yeah, for the most part, everything what we heard, our parents heard, our friends who were more into country music probably heard the same. They knew the songs, and I know
Yeah.
they all know the songs. They all know the songs. They don't listen to it now, but if they were at the bar and Sugar came on, they would sing it because
There
they
was
do
yeah,
know
there
it.
was there was like that's where the like it it's just a phase like it's not a phase. For most people it was because that was the most prevalent thing. Like yes, in 2001 I also liked listening to Nelly. Like that was a phase.
Same.
Nelly wasn't my lifestyle, whereas like this is something that a lot of us fell into that were already like weirdo punkish adjacent where it's like, okay, well maybe this is more my speed. And then we got stuck
Yes.
here. But like for most people it was but it's like that's the biggest thing going on. Like All American Rejects, these, Fall Out Boy, these ones, like anyone that was between the ages of 14, 24 has memories associated with these songs. Like
Oh,
in
100%.
everyone.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, All American Rejects. I mean, Dirty Little Secret was huge at the time, right? They were doing so much with that song. And it comes down to not only just the music, but I think what happened too is, because we started getting social media, right? It all came at the same time, right? We had pop punk and emo coming. And then we also had the invention of MySpace, right? LiveJournal, and then Facebook. We had all these social media platforms we never had before. I mean,
Yes.
was I on AIM when I was like 12 or 13 talking to old men that I
Yeah.
probably, you know what? Let's not
17,
talk about
17
Yeah.
F,
Yes.
FL, yeah.
Yeah, right? Like, come on now. But we started having these ways that we could all start connecting, right? So then we started building communities. And these bands were good at building their fan communities. They were
Yes.
on live. They were active on live. You could talk to Pete Wentz and ask him questions, and he would tell you about how he would like to cut Patrick Stump open and put little kittens in him, like all this weird stuff.
Yeah,
Like, you could talk to
there
that,
was,
right?
That's like in this there was more of like you have that in hip hop and in
Sure.
metal and other community like as well, but like in 2025 it seems crazy because everything now is like stands and fan communities and
yeah.
everything is like this, like everyone has their little things now, but like back then it was just like it wasn't really that deep all the time. You just kind of listen to the same shit while you and your buddies hang out. But with with this, it was like a whole new world. You'd be diving into message boards. I'd be trying to find new stuff. Like it became like a community thing and also like this excitement where it's like almost like Pokemon Go-esque where you're just like, I want to like know all these bands. I want to be the first one to find them. I found Hawthorne Heights on Pure Volume. And like I would just like I was so hyped on that. It's like I found them and then like the song comes out and it's like I like this. It was only Ohio's for Lovers and Nikki FM. And then Ohio's for Lovers pops off and it's like I found this band on the internet. Like, you know what I mean? Like there was a way and like there was an excitement to it. And yeah, that still exists now with streaming and stuff like that, but it's so overblown now that it's not the same as then. Like the internet was still small.
And it happens so fast now too. You say you just got like, we could talk about people blowing up, but like Chappell Roan's rise within one summer. Yeah, that's insane.
It just happens really quick.
The only people that have ever really done that would be, I would consider Panic at the Disco, right? Because they went from just being
literally not even being a band, just being like high school kids to being on top of and like, but I mean, not even like, who else was capable of doing that in like that time frame? Lou Pearlman and Jay-Z. That's the only other people that could be like, yo, I'm going to put y'all onto someone and then they're going to become mega stars. Like, that's not the way it worked. But like people, like that's how powerful the industry makers were. Like literally,
Pete Wentz is Lou Pearlman.
I'm saying literally, and I will
version.
tell you, I remember I have a friend from high school named Kayla Stewart who was like a Fall Out Boy obsessed fan, and like we were like BFFs, and we became friends because of Fall Out Boy. And I have a memory of being at my community college that I dropped out of on the phone with her and telling her like when Fall Out Boy went on hiatus, I was like, in 10 years, you're not going to know Pete Wentz as a musician anymore. He's going to be white Puff Daddy. Like, at the time,
I
Puff
mean,
Daddy, like, where it was like media
yes,
mogul. Like, he's going to become like Pete
yes.
Wentz. Like, this is like right when they, like, I don't think Black Cards had been, like, I can't remember if Black Cards had
Black
been announced
Cards.
yet. And, you know, like, that.
That was 2011. So Black Cards was like
Okay,
2011.
so this is,
so like,
yeah, so this is, yeah, so they broke up and then he didn't do anything right away. I couldn't remember if they broke up and then they announced
They
this
didn't break
stuff.
up. Shh. They just went on hiatus. I'm just kidding.
They did the right
They
thing.
will
They went on
argue-
a short
yeah.
hiatus.
They did.
Nice
They went on-
hiatus,
it
yeah.
it wasn't much needed.
And for those of you watching,
yeah.
don't worry, there will be full anthologies of episodes about Fall Out Boy.
if you're into that.
Yeah, no, trust me, we will be. Yeah, that's too much for one. But like, Pete was that big in pop culture. Like, Pete Wentz was a tabloid figure. I mean, Pete Wentz's peenie pics leaked on. Like, it was like big, huge deal.
Yes.
Like, this guy was that big, and like, yeah, Panic blew up, and yeah, Chapel blew up like that. And there's been like one hit wonder since, you know, and stuff like that. But actual legitimate stars who are like wanted as
Yes.
stars, no, that doesn't happen
That's
anymore.
not very often at all. But no, like, and then in terms of, you know, the tastemakers, and so goes the fashion, right? I mean, we get the emo haircut, we get the belts, we get the colors, and we get the makeup, the way the girls wear their makeup, but you start to see it everywhere, right? I mean, it's in, like we said, it's in video games, it's in movies, right? I mean, we saw Vindicated on a soundtrack, right? You're seeing them make appearances. I mean, like Fall Out Boys on One Tree Hill. I mean, the
Yes.
OC had like a ton of bands. Not all of them
The
were
OC,
like emo. A lot of them
but the
were
OC is
like-
important because I think we missed that earlier.
Yes.
OC comes out fall 03, like October, November 2003. And the OC, I think, is what takes it from being like punk adjacent subgenre stuff to being like very mainstream and like for the girls. You know what I mean? Like
oh man, Death Cab for Cutie, buddy.
Seth Cohen, that's the thing. Like Seth Cohen, like I remember like so like
Yeah.
I spent the first half of the 9th grade in San Diego and then the second half in Canada.
Okay.
And when I got to Canada, I was at like a new school and they were like, some of them knew me from before and they were like, oh, Rob's like a punk kid, and they're like all these bands that like Rob likes this, and it was like, oh, what about like Dashboard? And they knew Dashboard because they found Death Cab or something like that, and it was all because of Seth Cohen, you know. And it's like,
Yep.
handsome, dreamy guy, listens to cool bands. Girls
Yep.
want to get in with that dude, you know, with that fictional dude, and they check it out. And especially back then, like all those bands, you had to have like an acoustic heater.
Yeah.
And the acoustic heater would be like the loss leader that would just like kind of be the gateway that would get them in the door. And then like, yeah, 6 weeks later, you're just like raw dogging, screaming and stuff like that. It gets out of hand.
It really does. No, yeah. OC was huge in helping along with the trend, with this trend as well. Yeah, Seth Cohen was my dream guy. I mean, not only did he listen to the music that I wanted to listen to, but he was also a massive nerd who was way into his feelings. He was the opposite of Ryan, who never talked about his feelings.
That's yeah.
Like-
See, like
like,
at the time, I thought I was like Seth Cohen. Like I'd watch these and I'd be like, yeah, like I'm like Adam Brody as fuck. But like I don't think I was. I think I was Ryan. I like as I'm watching this, I'm living in San Diego because I got in trouble in Canada and got in a fight with my parents and they like shipped me away. Like I was definitely Ryan.
Oh, so you were
But
Ryan.
like, I was Ryan to the core. Like I was the troubled kid. But like in my head, I'm like, no, like I'm like the cool, like kind of like interesting, like, you know, as like I'm as obnoxious now as I was then, or you know, as I am now. But like I was like, yeah, like I'm like quiet and you know, like brooding. Like that's who I am. Like I didn't have the self-awareness yet. I didn't know.
No, exactly. But now we have this emo, this third wave emo, and it's gotten big. But it's obviously we know there's backlash, right? So let's talk a little bit about that backlash because I think that's a huge part because if you've seen interviews by any of these bands, if you've read any, there's a lot of oral history books right now about emo. Chris Payne's Where Are Your Boys Tonight? Great book. Yeah. If you haven't gotten a chance to read it, I highly recommend you check it out. But a lot of these people won't claim emo as their genre, right? They're like, I don't know, I just thought I played rock music, or I think I'm more pop punk, because there was a massive backlash in the 2000s around emo. First, there was just, of course, we talked about the boy bandification, right? How, you know, when you're seeing Gerard Way on J14 magazine. Like, I mean, come on now. It's kind of insane to see someone like him on there, but then all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, this music. Anything that teen girls like is usually just dismissed as not good, not true music, not artistry, and which is ridiculous on
It's
many
offensive
levels.
and it's sexist. And as someone with the music taste of a 14-year-old girl, I find it offensive.
Thank
and as
you.
someone who will
So
have
do
a 14-year-old daughter in 11 years, I find it offensive. Okay, like,
Thank you.
You know what I mean? Like it's a weird thing. But what, like, 35-year-old incel dudes, what they like is cool? No.
Yeah.
I like what boys at those age like I was a dude at that age, your brain doesn't work right. You know,
Yes.
like, it's insulting. But, like, yeah, so, like, I get into punk rock, and I'm a punk. Like, I think I am, at least. Like, I'm 13 years old, I'm a fucking punk rocker, you know what I mean? Like, I like Anti-Flag and No Effects, yeah, like, I'm a punk, I'm wearing the punk clothes. And I get into the emo, and like even I'm kind of into like some gothic kind of stuff, you know, like the Marilyn Manson. I don't know if we can talk about him. He might be in trouble.
Oh, he might be. I think he's pretty much canceled too.
Yeah, I heard
mean, he's
that like
always been a controversial
I heard
figure,
that his thing
right?
got exonerated, but I'm still like, I don't know. That might have been exonerated legally. That might not.
Well,
have
he
been...
will be at Louder Than Life. I'll let you know.
If you, like, emo kid was like such a like, well, they didn't know about emo kid. Emo kid was like more endearing, you know, but like to us, like they'd call you an emo or something like that. They usually
it's
throw
always
like
derogatory.
And there was usually like an F slur after it, like towards the dudes. Like I showed up at this new school in the 9th grade, and like I had someone throw a submarine sand, like a hoagie at me, because they're like, you little emo F slur, you know what I mean? Like, but it's like that's how people saw this. Like it wasn't cool. Like this was like the lamest thing you could be. But at the same time, it's also like the largest
coolest thing.
Yes, it's very weird.
Yeah,
but like if
but
you
I mean,
weren't
that's how
into
a lot
it,
of the big things are, right?
Yes, but like, which is fair. Like I imagine today, like if you're like one of the curly-headed kids, like are you like the new emo kid where it's, you know, like you're like the e-boy or something like that, or like those are the cool kids, but are they bullied by like the, you know, like more jockey people still? Is that still a thing?
I don't know. That's a great question. Is bullying a thing? Yes, bullying is still a thing. I have a lot of friends with kids who are teenagers. So bullying is a thing.
I don't know a single teenager.
Yeah,
which
and
is
then also
rare for a male in the pop punk industry, but I don't know any teenagers.
Let's
get that out there right away. I don't know any teenagers.
He knows zero. Now
I know no teens.
No teens. But as a part of the Fall Boy community, I know a lot of teenagers.
Did these girls hear like Centuries and they just decide, or did they hear Sugar, and Sugar is like their Smells Like Teen Spirit?
Well, it depends. A lot of them have different entry points. If you hear some of them, for them, it's American Beauty, American Psycho, that album, right? That was their entry point. Save Rock and Roll, some of them, that's like this album that saved their life. And for us, it's like, it's their comeback album. But for some people, that was their intro. And then Mania, which I know will be a whole topic we could discuss at some point. But
whose entry point is Mania?
There are people, I know,
so
fans
wild.
whose entry point is Mania. Yeah.
That's cool. That's neat.
Like,
that's neat.
When I interviewed Pete Wentz, because I do stuff for comic books on the side as well. Yes, and I got to go to LA, interview Pete Wentz and the other two women who were doing this is way off topic, but because I had my TikTok and my Twitter and stuff, I don't ever really know who's following me on TikTok, but I'm doing interviews of all the fans as they're waiting in line, and a girl walks up to me and she's 14. I was like, holy crap. I was like, oh, well, it is so nice to meet you. I'm so glad you're here. Like,
it's weird to me to see that, because it's like, to me, these are classic rock bands basically at this point. It's like
they are in dad rock, like Spotify.
Like I would have liked like okay, like I liked the U2 songs, but I couldn't imagine, like, you know,
I would never obsess over Steven Tyler and Aerosmith.
Yeah, I'm trying to think, like, am I writing am I shipping Bono and The Edge? Like, am I like,
please don't.
Eddie Vedder and Kurt Cobain were hooking up, like they did, yeah, right? Like,
Kurt
it's
Cobain
weird,
and Dave Grohl. No, I'm just kidding. Not me.
But I think that also shows that that's why this is the last big one, because these bands are in that same consideration with those, which is weird because at the time this was so disrespected. Like, I saw something you shared on Twitter where it was like about the Grammys, and they were like doing this retrospective on emo, and it was almost like how dare you? You know what I mean? It was like
Yeah.
it was like insulting. It's
It
like,
was
you know, like the
insulting.
government during Black History Month saying all these nice things. It's like, you know what you've done. Like you
Yeah.
haven't shown us any respect. Like they
I think
mentioned the
Fall Out Boy got
Academy is.
I know, and I don't think the Academy has ever
I
been
don't
nominated.
believe one person in that entire like that's just because like the right people have taken over the social media or something.
Exactly.
I remember seeing that
Yes.
and being like, what?
And that's probably true. I think the right people are like now our generation is starting to get into those areas, right?
We run the marketing now, so we're like, hey, no,
We
we're
do.
gonna
Yeah, but I mean it's true. I mean, I think Fall Out Boy got Best New Artist in like 2005 or 2006, but other than that,
Did they really?
didn't get their I think they were nominated. They didn't win.
I didn't think any of these. Okay, I was gonna say I didn't even think any of them were ever nominated.
But Fall Out Boy was eventually nominated for Mania in 2018. They were eventually nominated for a Grammy. They didn't win, obviously.
Grammys are wild.
Yeah, to me, I was like, wait, that's like they have so many amazing albums, and then we were all hoping for so much Stardust, but they just got completely shut out because I don't even know what the rock category is anymore with the Grammys. But no, I mean, the industry didn't respect it. The media didn't respect it. I mean, it was a joke. And then even though you have the emo bands playing at Hollister, right? I mean, there are bands like they were doing little concerts at Hollister's and stuff, which is not the same. Like that's not Hot Topic, guys.
No, it was yeah.
Those people were making fun of them. I had like you can see I love my side part. I'm a millennial, but like I had the extreme bang, right? Going
never do anything else. Yeah, I will never part anywhere besides the side. And I will never wear those jeans you kids are wearing. You look stupid. Your pants should be tight and they should get tight at the bottom. If you want to do a boot cut, it needs to be like low rise. If it's too big, I don't know.
I was very happy Flares came back. I'm not a fan of the Jinko jean look, but
no, they're gonna get dirty on the bottom. Like it's silly. Like
we've been there, we've done that. Come
on, Oliver Tree ass looking. Yeah, I don't get it.
But like my friends used to make fun of me, like, "Oh, Amanda, I can't see your one eye because your bang's in the way." Like I would all the time. I was always made fun of for like what I was wearing, and they'd make fun of Fall Out Boy all the time. Anything that I was listening to, it's like, oh, it's so sad. And then like, except for my one roommate who would be like, well, My Chemical Romance is okay because that's art. Black Parade's art, which is a whole other conversation we could have. And I'm like, okay. Yeah. And he also loved Dashboard, but Fall Out Boy was not art. And the other bands, Hawthorne, none of them were art. Fall Out Boy
was a boy band. Fall Out Boy was not respected, and it's because their songs were too catchy, is what it was. The songs were too good. And which is annoying to me because it's like if you listen to the songs, like musically speaking, they're playing essentially versions of, especially on those early records, they're basically playing hardcore music in major keys.
Because they were hardcore kids.
They're hardcore kids. There's a reason they called it like easycore or whatever. Like Joe, Andy, like those guys, like they're like, bro, like Joe's chugging on that, and Andy, like pre-surgeries and stuff like that, was getting stupid on that drum kit. Like they were a heavy band. They just also had a dude that could out-sing, in my opinion, everyone on the planet at that point, you know, like any white boy, like he was like pound for pound, he was in a league of his own.
100%.
And Pete was too unlikable at the point because he was too likable. He was. Yes. People didn't like guys like that. Like people didn't like you.
No,
like
they
dudes.
don't like. Yep.
Because girls would like them, and that dude was clearly cool, and there's something going on there, and it's immediately like, fuck that guy. And Pete was just such a good target, and Pete played it so well. Like
he did a good job.
I've never read a comic in my life. When I was a kid, I think the way it worked is you had to like sports or comics. You couldn't like both, and I was a sports kid. Mm-hmm. Yeah, now you can mix. Now it turns out everyone has seen every comic thing. I didn't know that was allowed. Like I had like a Spawn action figure that like I like hid. Like it was like I was playing with girl toys.
Oh,
because we were a sports family. Like I didn't know.
Yeah.
But like I like wrestling. And wrestling, like, you know, it's like there's a good guy and there's a bad guy, and the bad guy is really what draws money because people pay to watch someone get their ass kicked. Like that's why like Floyd Mayweather or Jake Paul.
Isn't
that's why people.
John Cena's turned heel now.
John Cena's a heel, which I don't want to talk about John turning heel because that's gonna like I sat here on my TV like I like a grown man like crying like I can't believe John like shook my faith in humanity. That's the best man in the world. I'll vote John Cena for president. Not right now.
I love John
piece
Cena.
Of shit right now, but I hope he turns it around and realizes he gets back.
Yes.
on the right path, because right now, like, I think he's just confused. I don't know. I don't want to lose faith in John. Like, I still believe in John Cena. Anyway, Pete was a great heel in the same way Ronnie
Yes.
Radke is a great heel now, but Pete was
Oh
like
yeah.
Ronnie. Yeah, that's a whole different thing, and that's more. I don't even understand that. But Pete at the time was very edgy. It's kind of there's this. We're still in America. We're still deep in being homophobic, and this dude is
Oh
coming
yeah.
along, and he's kind of like not even androgynous, but like he's like a little like bi adjacent or something like that. And it's like it doesn't even really matter. Like I'm just a dude, and I'm this and I'm that, you know. And like it's
Yep.
there's this swagger and charisma with it where it's just he becomes unlikable, and he kind of becomes, I think, like the face of this emo movement. Let's
Yes.
say from 2004 or 5 onward, 2005 to
Exactly.
like 9, this genre belongs to Pete Wentz.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Is that fair? Like it belongs to
I think
Pete.
so.
So it belongs to Pete, and Pete is kind of the faces, and Pete is also feeding the new bands. Like Pete is through Pete, he's like, okay, here's Panic. You like that one? You like here's Academias. Here's, I mean, even like gym class stuff like that. There's stuff that's
Oh
falling
yeah.
in through there, and he's kind of running it. And I guess we could say commercially, 2006, 7 is kind of like the emo peak or so around there. I mean, we
I'd
see
say so.
Infinity on High, we see Louder Now, we see even Devil and God, which we'll get into
Yeah.
that band later. And at this point, Hawthorne Heights had had their success, but this is kind of like the peak. And like, is
Mhm.
this where it goes downhill almost? Like, is this
Yeah.
when there
And
has to be a beginning and the end to this
yes.
scene right now before it comes back and we realize
So
this, right?
yeah, so a lot of people pinpoint the rise in the four on the floor dance music, right? So you got like Lady Gaga. You start to see with like Rihanna coming out with Umbrella and all these like very like high energy dance songs, and
As
then Lady
opposed to
Gaga comes out.
let's say like so just so I know where we're coming from, the mid 2000s, let's say, is more R&B driven pop music, like
Yeah,
Missy Elliott,
exactly.
Sierra, kind of like very more
Exactly.
urban, and
Eve's, yeah, with
then we
Eve
hit
and
that
stuff.
recession pop.
Yes, recession pop. So that's basically what happened. Not only did we hit a recession, but we also then got a new president. There was all this like kind of like a high energy kind of thing. And so you start to see this shift in the culture. You start to see a shift in the type of music that we're consuming. And I think fatigue, right? I think that we could also say there's a fatigue there. When it
Yes.
becomes a Halloween costume, now it's become its own meme. I think that's when it starts to become something that everyone's growing tired of and they don't want to see it anymore. And then, of course, you see that fallout with a lot of the different bands going through their own thing. You know, Fall Out Boy with Folia Do. No one, couldn't be the most least respected of,
So
yeah.
let's
And then they,
say,
take their hiatus.
because let's say, yeah, around like I'd say around 2008, like rock music, like things start shifting, because it's almost like a lot of the bands in our world even started becoming like those bands, like like the
Yep.
Cobras and the Metro Station, things like that. Like we kind of
Oh yeah,
started embracing, like our world started doing that. I mean, Katy Perry was a Warped Tour act, I mean, I saw her in the
303.
parking lot in
Yeah, I mean,
San Diego,
yeah.
like, so we kind of started embracing that. And I would say even like indie rock is kind of moving in that direction, where it's like a little more like all very like we're getting into early Stomp Clap. We're getting
Oh,
into
we're
the
getting there.
foundations of Stomp Clap, where it's like this millennial music, where it's like that Kyle Gordon, like we're never gonna die, put your hands in the air, we're having fun, like this night's never gonna end stuff. And maybe the I want to kill myself because my
People,
girlfriend doesn't like me music starts to fall out of favor. And same thing, like you're saying, like I don't like one, it's kind of a costume at the time, but also like as like 11-year-olds and 12-year-olds are getting into stuff, it's really not cool like to like the same things as them when you're 20,
exactly.
so it's like
Yep.
we all like I hit like 19, 18, 19, and it's like, yeah, like I liked Foley a lot, I liked Pretty Odd, I liked
Yeah.
Dave, but it's like I didn't want to be associated with that stuff as much anymore. I'd say we start to splinter off, and I'd say
Yes.
most of the pop punk kids, like a chunk of them stay in the lane, a chunk of them become more rock, more indie,
Yeah.
or like, and
I
then or they
agree.
become like this. They go from the acoustic stuff, they go to the stomp clap. they become post-hardcore kids because we see like after pop punk, post-hardcore takes over.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
And then, or they became EDM kids. Like EDM is maybe the other one too that kills it off.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, thanks to like Sunny from First to Last with Skrillex, I mean, that really starts to, I mean, for me, that, you know, I really got into that EDM music. I've listened to a lot of Skrillex in the 20s.
I've never heard it. I never
Oh,
heard it. I was in a band. I hated that stuff because like we used to be able to get booked on Fridays and Saturday nights and make good money. And then Fridays and Saturday nights, they didn't book bands anymore. They just booked these fucking DJs. And there were so many DJs
yes.
and I hated DJs. I see a MacBook. I just want to smash it now. Like I just thinking about them. I would say like a lot of the kids that were pop punk kids, like it was a phase and they move over to raver music and stuff like that.
Yeah, and that the bands follow too. I mean, Cobra, Starship, and that's the kind of scene you see, like the Millionaires and stuff like that. It is very like let's all dance and let's have a good time, kind of music.
So, I would say too that's kind of like because like like this is the last big rock movement because you see from there those people shift off. They didn't shift off to different rock movements. Like, sure, a lot of them became post-hardcore fans. Like, I'd say, if anything, killed emo music as much of all these things, you could maybe say A Day to Remember killed emo music. You know what I mean? Like, because A Day to Remember came along and people are like, wait a second, we could have, like, really catchy songs and then they'll go, like, dun dun dun, dun dun dun, boom, boom, boom. Like, we can do that. And it's like, it became, like, breakdown heavy music. You know what I mean? Like, and...
Yeah.
Or EDM, which is breakdown heavy music as well. Or stomp clap, but they weren't rock kids anymore. Like they
No. And it's not even just about the different genres, but I think what happened at the same time is streaming started to take off, right? So now you could just listen to music, all types of music on Apple. With your iPod, you could buy music off of the Apple Store, right? And then eventually Spotify. You could get Pandora. You could be listening to all different kinds of radio stations and they would play whatever you want. And so as we start to stream more, and I noticed this like with myself as I started streaming more versus buying individual albums, things like that. I was like, okay, where can I find this certain music? And it wasn't like I wasn't going to a particular genre anymore. I was going to what sounded good to me. And some things were from different genres. And so now it's kind of like everything's everywhere all at once, like the movie. And it's hard to create a monoculture or create a movement when you have everyone trying to do so many different things at the same time. Right. So now it's like, well, how can we create the next movement when everyone's kind of like, we know there's a great number of people who love emo music, but there's also a lot of people who don't and want to do other stuff. Yeah. And the algorithm will take you wherever it takes you.
And so so we're like, okay, so Spotify and all that and things start diversifying too much, basically. And back in the day, how did you find a band? You found a band on like a video game soundtrack or a compilation or because they were signed to the same record label. And then all of a sudden, within a matter of a couple of years, and sure, it starts with MySpace and stuff like that. But with those ones, it's still very much I would click on a genre and search by genre. You were still kind of trying to stay within genres on MySpace. You were,
yeah.
I was in a band and it was awesome. This is the best time to be in a band was the MySpace era because this was all so new that people weren't it was when you're in sales, eventually sales tricks stop working as the market. And it's the same thing. It's you could DM someone, an auto botted DM that was just hey, thanks for following us. And people would be like, holy shit, this band wants to be my friend. And it was so easy. And we'd just be like, yo, we're playing a show at this place. It's $8 pre-sale, $12 at the door. We'll deliver them to you. People would be like, this is so cool. A band's reaching out to me. And then at some point, very quickly, so MySpace dies off, let's say 08, it's finally '09, it's finally just becoming doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Twitter, by that point, if you started doing that, we've all kind of caught on. Everyone's like, okay, bro, I ain't checking this out. And you start wanting to find things on your own and it diversifies and we have no more, because I'm thinking okay, there's been bigger movements since okay, Stomp Clap. Stomp Clap wasn't for kids. That was for adults in the same way, indie
It was
music
for us
was. Like mostly,
millennials who were growing
yeah,
up.
it was for millennials who were like 20 who you
Yes.
wanted you liked Hey There Delilah, but you felt silly for it. So you were like, let's add a fucking fiddle and like a stomp
Yeah,
stomp
let's
stomp
get
stomp
Mumford and
thing.
Sons out here.
Yeah,
Yeah,
let's just
good one.
it's just Little Lion Man is just Hey There Delilah, like, but you've taken like freshman like Psych 101. Get over yourself. God, I hate Mumford Sons.
I know.
I can't stand the stomp clap. But that stuff that's not for young people anymore. That's not cool. And okay, there's different things that are like Stanny, like One Direction, Bieber, but like those aren't really cool either. Like they're massive, but they're not. Cool's not the word. I would say, Chicago drill rap, like Chief Keef is
Yeah.
cool. That was really cool. That was a movement, but the whole world didn't hear Chief Keef. Like not everyone
No.
has heard. Not everyone has heard I Don't Like and Hate Being Sober somehow, but like
Yes.
and that's just to show that like when we grew up there was a monoculture where like you would see these things and you would learn about them all at once, and now we don't have that anymore, and it's like things are big but they're big in pockets, like
Yes.
you know.
Like in your algorithm, it's big. But in someone else's algorithm, they're never going to see it because it's just not something that they're interested in, right?
Yeah,
They're
it doesn't
They
doesn't
don't have
exist.
to be witness to it if it's not in their algorithm. That is pretty much how it exists today, right? I mean,
Speaking of algorithms, maybe have you seen the video in your algorithm of the guy getting ready in the morning yet? Have you seen it? Do you know what I'm talking about? The guy, it's like this big buff black dude, and he's like a fitness influencer kind of thing. And like it starts at like 3:50 in the morning, and he's got like a piece of tape on his mouth, and he like takes it off, and he goes through it's like he does like 4 push-ups, and he's got this bottle that you think is liquor, but it's water, and he dunks his face in it, and it's this whole production that's like the fit, and like he dives in the pool, and then like 4 minutes late, like it's like, like somehow 4 minutes go by before like he went in the water somehow, and then like it shows him on like a business call, and he's getting ready, and he's like, now that I'm looking at it, bro, we got to get in at least 10,000. Like it's just the fakest thing. He's rubbing a banana on his face. It's my whole algorithm.
God.
My whole algorithm is people making fun of this, and
That's
is
amazing.
videos, and is people like doing songs where they're talking about LeBron James. It's like they're doing Hey There Delilah, but it's about LeBron.
Oh.
Have you seen those?
I've seen those, but not the other guy. That's
but
not
that's
my
what I'm saying
algorithm.
is like I think I'm under the impression that the guy getting like that guy, I'm under Ashton something. I'm under the impression that's the biggest thing in the world right now, and everyone's seen it, but you have no idea what I'm talking about. And we have relatively the same algorithm to some degree.
We do. You unfortunately see all the Patrick Stump stuff on your Twitter.
You guys are so weird about that.
Unwittingly.
You guys are so weird. I'd never seen that stuff until I followed you on Twitter. I feel weird about like I didn't know people like found Patrick Stump attractive. Like I thought that was like kind of the charm of the guy, is like, like he's just like a really light skinned, like kind of chubby, like church lady from Montgomery, Alabama is what he is at his heart. You know what I mean? Like he's got the soul voice,
He's got the soul voice. Yeah.
He's got the soul voice.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the beard. It's the age. Algorithms are so different, right? I think if I had to choose, and only because it's gotten made fun of on like SNL, which to me, not that SNL is even that popular anymore anyway, but the SoundCloud rappers. So we talk, I know we'll go into the future of, where
why did I not
things
think of that? That's exactly, that is one of the ones.
Yes, that's probably to me, but again, that's influenced heavily by our emo, right? The third wave emo. I mean, Post Malone talks about Pumpin' Fall Out Boy, right? In one of his early songs that got really famous.
That's exactly, that is the last big one. And that, because that's the thing, to the point, people will like, it's the same thing. People will just call anything that was remotely like people be calling 3 Days Grace, anything that sounded like that's emo music. Everything from 2016 to 22 was just fucking mumble rap to people. They'd be like, it's mumble rap. And I'd be like, it's the Migos. They're not even mumbling. Like, they're very clearly. And then there's 2 other ones basically repeating the thing. Like, the words are clear. You can hear the song. But, like, that's what it was called. And it was all like they were, and that.
It was like Lil Peep and Post Malone.
That's when I got really back into pop punk, because like I'd still listen to it all the time, and I still like, I played in a band, it was adjacent to it, and that was still my world, but it was like, oh, I like all these things. But at that point it was like, no, this is my culture, and holy shit, this influence we have, which is like, again, theme of the episode here really ties in because like you think you're 2017, 2018, 2019, and like this is hip hop, and you would think like we grew up hip hop and rock, like these things were kind of meshed, but like if you grew up in an urban environment, like maybe you knew of the rock, but like there were different worlds. But these kids in 2017, 18, 19, who are at this point, you know, teenagers, like 15 to 25, they grew up hearing Paramore and Panic and Fall Out Boy on the radio. That was their boy bands. That was their fucking like Celine Dion's and Sheryl Crow's almost. You know what I mean? Like they heard right Sin's Not Tragedies.
Dolls, Iris.
Yes, like that was their black. Yes. That was like it's so funny to me now because like I've always loved Third Eye Blind, and when you mentioned seeing them earlier, I like lit up. I was like, ooh. But like Third Eye Blind so now they get all this credit like as like this influential band, and it's this weird thing where like I know it's like our world, like it's like we grew up on Third Eye Blind, so we all like Third Eye Blinds, and they became influential. But it was car ride with mom music.
Yeah, 100%.
Yes, so like they'd hear these songs, and then surely they had an influence, and you'd hear it. Like I mean, like when I finally like realized like emo rap was a thing, and like I'd listen to, like Lil Peep or something like that. I'm like, this is the coolest thing I ever heard. Like this is one of us.
It's one of us. I mean, those guys. I mean, they made fun. What is it? If you get to see the skit on SNL with Timothy
I've never
Chalamet,
seen it. I didn't know they made fun of it, but I figured they did.
So him and Pete Davidson play SoundCloud rappers, and they have this song that blew up on SoundCloud. They have 1 billion streams, and it's the most ridiculous song. And you have like, I think Questlove from The Roots is like a guest on the show too. And they're like basically talking about the history of hip hop, and they're like, "Who are you guys? How did you get into hip hop?" And the guy's like, "I like Fall Out Boys," and I was like, "Oh god, yeah, that's like no." But
that's what we mentioned on SNL.
I was like, oh no, you're right. That is what happened. I mean, and to be fair, they have also collaborated with a lot of those SoundCloud rappers, Juice WRLD and Lil Peep and stuff. So
rest in peace, Juice WRLD. Rest in peace, Lil Peep.
Yes,
yeah,
exactly. Yeah, so it's not surprising at all. But that, to me, that would be the closest thing we have come. But even then, it's not as ubiquitous as emo was. Like, because you could even yeah.
Nothing can be as big as that anymore, but like that was big, but it was also like I didn't really see kids dressing like that on the street, you know what I mean? Like that was like I've seen maybe 5 or 6 people with like, you know, like the tattoo on their face. Like that wasn't really that common, whereas like every kid in 2005 went through an emo phase.
Yes, just like every kid went through a grunge phase in the 90s when Kurt Cobain and Nirvana were at the peak.
And
right?
It's weird because like part of me thinks like the pop punk stuff is like, I'm like, it was kind of like the hair metal stuff. Like it was kind of like the 80s Sunset Strip stuff where it was kind of like over the top and this and that. But at the same time, it was like also the grunge thing, you know, but those are the other 2 big rock movements. There's really no other ones besides those anywhere close to our lifetimes, you know?
No, exactly. I mean, do we consider nu metal a huge movement? I mean, it was a thing.
In a way.
Yes,
This is difficult. Let's really think about this for a second. Because nu metal was big. And I was a kid where, like, I came up on nu metal. I loved...
Same.
I loved, I love Limp Bizkit. Like, still think they're neat. I would like to hang out with Fred Durst sometimes. But, like... And they did shift culture. Like, I dressed like him.
They did.
Like, I am wearing a backwards baseball cap right now. Why do you think I wear a backwards baseball cap?
Because of the break stuff? No, just kidding.
Because of Fred Durst. Like, literally, because of Fred Durst. I spell my name with 2 B's because it was like that was like the thing. Like, you know, like Snoop Dogg.
Yes.
Road Dogg. Like, it's like DOGROBB. That'd be cool. It's like, that did. But at that time, I think there was also, I don't think nu metal was as big as pop punk. It's hard to look at it from a sales perspective because there were so many more CDs selling in the 90s, but like, objectively speaking, I think there was many acts bigger than Limp Bizkit in a way. I don't know.
Oh, yeah, no,
I don't know. Like, I'm almost rethinking my take now because I'm thinking of like Woodstock stuff. Like, was nu metal more influential?
Well, in 1999 it was. But I mean, as far as the mainstream culture, was it everywhere? I mean, I don't think the music was as accessible as pop punk. Because even like yeah, like even Blank was very accessible. Like
Yes.
they were like, "What's my age again?" and all the small things. That's a very
it's
pop driven
it's
record.
pop, yeah, it's
Yeah.
bubblegum music.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, like I
Yeah.
my mom would maybe want to, like, yeah, I remember I had those CDs, you know, and it's like, okay, she liked the George Michael Faith cover until he screams the F word, and she maybe liked like Cowboy or Only God Knows Why on the Kid Rock CD, but like that stuff wasn't really palatable to most people. And like
No.
I think there's this really
Corn
good
is
article.
another example. Not
Like
very
corn, yeah, corn's
palatable to
great,
most
but like
people.
it's like kind of like I'll listen now, and every now and then, like every 6 months, I'll put on Got the Life, and I'm just like, this is one of the coolest songs ever written,
Yes.
like legitimately. And I'll watch it, and because like I was almost gonna do this video earlier about like a Mount Rushmore of pop punk bands, and one of the reasons I had Good
Ooh.
Charlotte in it is Good Charlotte shifted culture to me in terms of fashion, especially. Like
Oh yeah.
I liked hip hop before I liked punk, and hip hop fashion was cooler than punk fashion, and Good Charlotte kind of meshed them. You know what I mean? Like Good Charlotte were
Yeah.
kind of like they kind of dressed like thugs, like they're from DC, like they're hard.
Yeah. Yeah. I
But
agree.
Jonathan Davis was wearing Adidas tracksuits and rocking dreadlocks, and like he was kind of hip hop. Is like I don't know.
Well, they are. Well, it didn't. Well, they were also doing collabs with rappers. I mean,
Yes.
was it Limp Bizkit did it with? Was it Master P or was it?
Limp
No,
Bizkit
it
has
was
one with Method Man
Exhibit. And yes,
did they, yeah, they have an Exhibit, and I think like
Method Man.
and Korn had stuff with like Ice Cube or something. Like I'm sure
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they all had stuff like, yeah, they were kind of in the hip hop world, but all that stuff felt a little more dangerous. Like these pop punk bands were there was a boy bandification to it. They all had entry point songs where it was like, okay, this is cutesy, like, you know.
Yep, it's
Maybe
safe. Yeah, it's not too.
Yeah, your
dark.
parents didn't hear like the horned up suicide part of the Fall Out Boy record. They just heard the down down round thing, and they're like, oh, that's nice. Yeah, there was something.
That's okay.
There was something warm to it. I mean, and we look at the 2000s, like in the mid 2000s, I don't think we had pop stars at the same level either that we have now. Like I think
No.
I would say that we
Yeah.
were almost on the same footing.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, we had celebrities, and you know there were artists, and then there were celebrities, and you know eventually some of them crossed over. I mean, even Burt McCracken, right from the U's, because he dated Kelly Osbourne, right? God, poor guy had to be on that show. And
Such a
even
good
he
show.
had. It's
I
such a
wish
good-
you could watch it now. Like there's like a few episodes on YouTube. Like that's the
Maybe
that's the
Paramount Plus
beginning
will
of
put it back on.
reality. Yeah, no. If you work at MTV, you work at Paramount Plus, call me. We need to work on the network. Your streaming service, it sucks. It sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There's some improvements that can be made for sure. And they have some good stuff on there. And I'm like, come on, guys. Work with me. But yeah, so you see some of the people in the emo scene becoming a little bit more than just artists, right? They're a little bit more, they're getting the paparazzi coming after them because of who they're dating, mainly. I mean, honestly, that's what it comes down to. Who are you dating? And they were dating pop princesses, or I don't know. I guess Kelly Osbourne's not a pop
They were
princess.
dating
but she's-
teenagers. They were dating
They were
teenage
dating
pop
teenagers.
princesses.
Well,
Like
that's
I
true.
feel so, and it's this is a weird thing, and don't worry, people, we'll have a whole episode dedicated to this. But like I
We will.
had something about like the Mad or like Good Charlotte a few days ago, and someone commented about like Joel and Hilary Duff, and it's like it's almost not a crime because it was just so like this wasn't some secret weird thing. It just this was very public and very normal in the weirdest way. I don't know
Yes.
why.
Yeah, when we have our episode, there's a show that me and another Fall Out Boy fan that I know from TikTok have rediscovered. It's a Canadian show called Instant Star, and it's on Amazon Prime Video right now. But the main character, and it came out in 2004. She's a 15-year-old girl who wins like a American Idol type contest, and she has to work with this 22-year-old producer who used to be in a boy band. They have feelings for each other, but she's 15 and he's 22, but yet they make it like they're this like, will there, won't there? I'm like, but she's 15 and he's 22.
Wow.
Wait, are we being groomed? Is this what, like, we were like, are we being groomed right now? Was this us being groomed? Because I remember this show very vividly, and
And it was like a
terrible
dream
show.
probably at the time. You were like,
Yeah,
wow, maybe some
and
cool
she was-
22-year-old like
Yeah, well, yeah, and she was dressing like many girls would dress in the emo. Like she had the belt and she had the skirts and she had the whole outfit going for her and she had the hair was like just the right way and she was very cool. The music was fire, but it was very, very like just sus. Like it was not right at all. So we will talk about that more, but that is things that were like being aired to us in 2004. Just for context, when we get to that.
I
that
lived
part.
in Canada at the time this came out, and I don't remember this show at all. Like, I don't
It was a
remember it. And
crossover with Degrassi.
yeah, so
I
so it
mean,
was created by the same lady as Degrassi. So like that's too like okay, so Degrassi Next Gen was for some reason was more popular in America than it was Canada.
we loved it. Oh,
Yeah,
we loved
like
it.
when I'd come to America, I'd watch it would be on Noggin and it'd be on like all day.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, when the girl
Yep.
like when Jimmy gets shot, the girl gets like the STDs on her mouth and stuff. Like yeah, it was a wild, real, yeah, juicy program for young adults. But in Canada, like it actually wasn't that big. Like I didn't know anyone
That's
at all that actually watched Degrassi
really
Next Gen. I don't even remember. Like it came on CTV. It was on like once a week. But here in America, it would air all day.
all the time.
Like that shit
Oh
was
yeah.
like ridiculousness for Noggin in 2005.
Oh, I loved Degrassi. Could not get enough of it. So dramatic. But yeah, we'll have a whole episode dedicated
Yeah,
to
we'll talk about perverts later.
that.
Yeah, we can move
We'll
on from
talk about
perversion. Yeah,
perverts
we'll talk about
later.
yeah.
Yeah, we'll talk about perverts later. Can't wait.
By the way, while we're
Uh,
I don't know teenagers. We already talked about that, right? Yeah, we already covered that.
Yes, we
We've
did.
said it twice.
We
I feel like
covered
we
that.
say it anymore.
You're
It
good.
becomes red flag. I had to say it a certain amount just so in case you missed it at the earlier part. Yeah, I don't even have any cousins
good.
in that age range. Yeah.
He's all good.
Oh wait.
Yeah,
Oh,
but
I have a niece. Step niece lives in nothing weird. Yeah.
and
This
here's
is the
how
point. Yeah.
Rob's gonna get us.
This is the point. Yeah. Moving on. Anyways,
Moving
you
on.
need to you need to rein me in. Where we at?
Yes,
Bring
where
me
we at?
back.
All right. Yeah. So where we at? Yes, but yeah. So it for us, it really comes down to this being, yes, we could talk about how there's been other things that have happened since third wave emo, right? We've talked about SoundCloud. We've talked about even the rise of this strange introspective pop music that women singers are doing now.
And
like
it's
your Billie
all-
Eilish's, your Olivia Rodrigo.
It's all pop punk and emo to me. It's all pop punk.
Oh, yeah,
and
it
emo.
is. That's all it
right?
is.
Like
That's-
all these
yeah.
genres we're talking about. Like I would say EDM. Like I mean, Skrillex is the biggest. Is the Kurt Cobain of that. He is one of us. Taylor Swift is one of us. In country, Zach Bryan, Post Malone right now. They're one of
Yeah.
us. You know what I mean? Like
Exactly.
I work with a record label. I you do some stuff with them, and they have their country label is the
Yeah.
biggest country artist, Morgan, those guys, Florida Georgia Line,
Yeah.
and they're rock artists. All their rock artists they all grew up on this. All the country guys on their label grew up on this. I was at a show on Friday
Exactly.
night, and I had an interview with one of their artists earlier, and like at this point they became familiar with me, and like multiple people came up to me and they were like, you mentioned like you were like an emo guy, right? And I was like, yeah. And they're like, me too. Like immediately became like the thing. Like literally his one of the artists his manager like literally was like, I heard in the interview you mentioned like you were into like screamo and emo. And it was like very like this just like me
Yep.
too. And it was like right
Yes.
away like okay, like we cool fam, like we're homies.
Yeah, it's like an instant connection. And I think from that perspective, because a monoculture doesn't exist anymore, we can have these little pockets. I think that we're at the point now where our culture, even in our music, it's just a recycling. And you could say that maybe about third wave emo, but I like to say that they were still trying new things, right? They were taking elements and trying new things. And not only with the music, but then with the culture, with
Yes.
with the style, the fashion, all that stuff combined, all made for what you were doing at the time. You were on MySpace, you were on LiveJournal, you were on, Pure Volume. It was like a thing, right?
Yes.
But now you don't have that. It's not a whole culture. It can be whatever you want it to be. So I think from that perspective, when it comes to a movement, we're never going to see that again because of all these different factors, right? You have the recycling of the genres. You have the too ubiquitous nature of things with algorithms that are keeping pockets everywhere, and it's making it hard to form a definitive culture. You have all these subcultures if you find the right algorithm.
I would say no art, like, I mean, not talking about sales or streaming or anything like that, but like in terms of
Yeah.
like a Q score or like a social awareness, I don't know if anyone today scores as well as anyone did then. Like I would imagine, like, okay, who are the biggest touring artists in 2024, 2025? Okay, besides, you know, the Taylor, but like it's Morgan Wallen probably.
Yes.
I mean, Sabrina does well. I mean, even
Sabrina's been doing
Drake,
well.
Kendrick, like those guys, like, okay, these major artists who do major numbers,
We'll
who
see how the
break,
Jonas Brothers do.
yeah, who break every record. But do does everyone actually know these artists' songs? You know what I mean? Like,
It's a great question.
has okay, everyone has heard "Not Like Us" now because of the Super Bowl, but like, has everyone in America actually heard "Hot to Go"? Have they all heard?
I don't think so.
Have they all heard espresso? Like many people have, but like I think we exist in worlds now where like we don't have to listen to the radio or watch the same channel.
No.
Many people and like normal-ish people, not total weirdos like before, can
Yes.
live in the same world as us and have never heard this shit.
Well, I know those people. I mean, you're talking about like my cousins and stuff. They could not, like, they did not know Chapel Roan exist until they hung out with me and some of our friends who are lesbians, and they love Chapel Roan, and they put it on and they're like, who's this? And I'm like, you don't know Chapel Roan? But only because like I'm in the whole scene. I'm always looking for new music. That's I love music, so I'm always trying to find the new stuff. Like that's how it is. But a lot of people aren't like that. And if it's on the radio, and now you have like Sirius XM has like 800 channels, and you can just, and that's where only like the only people, and because I live in Kentucky, it's the country music, right? If you're a country music fan, you stay in that lane and you don't really ever leave it. From my best of my knowledge,
you don't step out.
I just think about people that I know, right? And so they're all that is a culture, and that is, but it's not like it's an ongoing thing. It's never changed. And if you try to change it, they don't like it, and they backlash, like they don't want you to change from what country is. But
that's also probably the prevalent that's like the prevalent mindset of most of America. Like that, like country music is the biggest, like I'd say, like for a point, like most of the 2010s until a couple years ago, hip hop is the biggest thing in the world. Hip hop is even kind of fallen off to where like countries, like that is most of America. I mean, you saw how these people vote, this and that, like, you know what I mean? Like that's the average American is listening to country radio, and they are listening to the next country artist that comes on, and they're ingesting that one, and they're not venturing out. Like they're not clicking on a Bandcamp link below a tweet because someone, I mean, like,
no,
I mean, like, I could probably make some real money if I started talking about Morgan Wallen tomorrow, but like in our world, like it's segmented, and everything is segmented now.
100%. Yeah.
That's
just the way it is.
Is there any way you think that ever like changes, like pendulum swinging, or are we just kind of, it's just going to get weirder?
I think it's gonna get weirder. That's for sure.
I think after Brat Summer, I think it's getting weirder. Like we're like culture is like we're just gonna keep veering into our own little things.
Yeah, I don't see. I think it's gonna get more monetized, more systematic and algorithmic, or however you want to use the adjective there. Just because I don't see us ever pulling back from that. I think that's just what it is now, and so we're going to see a lot of recycling, and that could be a whole other thing, the recycling of culture, because we could talk about that with movies. We could talk about with the millennial movies that have been like repurposed and remade and everything like that.
I would even say that's kind of like, okay, like I think like there was a moment there like about 5 years ago where pop punk was popping off again. And I think maybe the thing that held it back was the gimmicky nature of it from the normies and the casuals and the phase people, where it was very much like, it needs to be Blink 182. We want Blink 182. Like you know what I mean? Like the MG, like I like the MGK records. Like I think that was cool because if you were like a 14-year-old kid that didn't know that stuff, you'd heard maybe you'd hear the MGK and maybe you'd dive into it, right? Like I don't know, like
sure, why not? Yeah, he seems pretty cool.
Yeah, a nice enough guy. I don't know him. Like like what, the guy? He's a guy from Ohio or something. Like cool, neat. Yeah, but there's something, where like there's something decent to that. But then a lot of it just at that time became very cookie cutter. And you'd even see it from like before I was on TikTok, I would hear about it and see it, like Lil Huddy, like, stuff like that, where
Yeah.
they're basically just doing derivatives of songs that already existed for
Yes.
nostalgia and for new ears. And that's when shit starts to fail. That's when nothing will push forward, because pop punk and emo and stuff was cool at the time because, like you were saying, like it kind of, there was cool stuff to it. It was progressive. It was new. It felt like it was our music. You don't want to listen to your parents' music.
Yeah, 100%. And that's now, that's not necessarily the case. And you don't ever have to listen to your parents' music with the way the algorithms are. But what is your music? That's the big question. So it's whatever's popular on
15-year-old girl
TikTok.
music.
That's, yeah, well,
I
that's
don't know.
always going to be mine. I have to all be my music is always 50-year-old girl music. But like, that's what it is. I mean, it'll be popular on TikTok for like 15 minutes and then everyone will make a video with it and then it'll, gain its popularity and die off. I always look at what I see in my For You page and then I go to Spotify. I'm like, oh, it's the number one song on Spotify. I'm not surprised by that at all.
I've only looked at my For You page like 7 times ever. Like
Dang.
I've made it I've made it a point. I made it a point, like I'm not gonna get sucked into this.
Yep.
I will spend hours on there, but I'm mainly like responding to comments or trying to think of something to post or just like obsessively like checking like to see how something did or something like that. But like I will not I fight the algorithm. I'll click on like my friends like to see like what you guys are
Mm-hmm.
posting and to like support people, but like I I refuse to start watching it. And like I hate to say this because this will hurt me credibility and financially, but like you should stop scrolling on TikTok for too long. You shouldn't be doing that for too
You
long.
should.
It's hurting your attention span. And if you
Yeah,
are going
it
to
is.
scroll, you should be scrolling on our videos.
Yeah, scroll on our videos.
Yes.
Especially
Well,
if
don't
you're
scroll
into
too
fall one.
fast. Like I need you to watch to a certain point. I need you to kind of like hang there for a minute. Yeah, like hang there, engage, do some engagement, then scroll.
Yes. Speaking of engagement, if you haven't already, make sure if you liked this episode, make sure to like it, subscribe to our podcast if you want to hear more of what we have to say about emo music from the generation and time period that we love so much.
So this is let me get this straight. So if you're watching this, just so you know, we finalized the name about 5 minutes before we hit record. So this is
Literally.
Emo Kids Anonymous, right?
Emo
Anon.
Kids Anonymous.
And Emo Anon
Yep.
for short. I like that a lot.
Yes.
we were just messing with names and none of them were that solid. But they were all
No.
kind of solid, but they were like I don't think that's a podcast. Like
Yeah.
no one's gonna be like it's gotta be something where like you're not gonna be embarrassed to say it out loud, you know what I mean? Like I feel like
Exactly,
we're already
yeah.
we're kind of walking that line now, but if we went with like the stuff
I
we were
put this on
thinking,
a
it's like
t-shirt. I put it on a t-shirt.
yeah, see, this works for shirts, which, by the way, yeah, probably by the time you'll be able to watch this, you'll be able to buy a blouse. The blouses would be on the bottom, right? For YouTube, we point down.
Yep, toe down. Yep.
And you
It's
can
on the bottom.
subscribe to this on Spotify and Apple and all the other things.
Yep.
And I don't know what else how do we end this? This is the first time we've ever done this. What do we do?
Oh, that's true. Yeah. So, so stay
People
tuned
gotta
for our
hear it in
next episode.
progress.
Exactly. Our next episode is the March Madness thing we're going to do, right?
Next one, next week. The next episode will be March Madness, and we'll have a 64 brand bracket, and we're going to break that bitch down.
Yes. So we're going to be talking about all of our favorite emo bands from all the different regions, and we're going to see who comes out on top. So stay tuned for that. That'll be our episode for next week. And if you like what you see, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, and follow us wherever you can. We're also on TikTok as well, each of our individual pages. Mine is at @AmazingAmanda_reels with a Z talk. And then Rob, what's yours for
At
TikTok?
Rob Laffoon, just my name, my government name, at
There we
Rob
go.
Laffoon. That's not my
Good
government
name.
name. Once the criminal
Is it?
record clear, no, I'm gonna change it to at Rob Laffoon legally. But yeah, and
Okay.
and let's go on some limbs while we're on here. Let's just keep giving people weird insider dirt. We're gonna release these on a Wednesday. Does Wednesday sound nice?
Yeah, Wednesday sounds
Wednesday?
great. Yeah.
Do we do Wednesday?
Yeah.
Okay, that gives us tomorrow to
You
figure
do
this
Wednesdays
out.
or Fridays? Or what do you want to do?
Wednesdays. These release on Wednesdays. We record them Monday and we release them Wednesday. How does that
Release on
sound?
Wednesdays. I
You
like
guys
it.
are getting
Let's do
too
it.
much insider info. They shouldn't even see this part, but we let you see it because we care. Okay.
Yes, we do. And it's a good way to spend your hump day. So listening
Yeah.
to about us talk about emo music.
Wednesdays are for Emo Kids Anonymous. Yeah. Your Emo
Yeah.
Anon meetings will be here every Wednesday. Thank you for joining us. Amanda, thank you for
Yeah,
being
of
my
course.
co-host and keeping things under control.
Try my best.
Good luck.
Yes.
Goodbye,
All right.
Internet.